conflict escalating in the Middle East, which has witnessed a major escalation in the tensions plaguing the region. Iran has launched more than 180 ballistic missiles at Israel, targeting the Mossad headquarters in Tel Aviv as well as the city of Jerusalem. This large-scale attack has heightened fears of an all-out regional war. Up until now, the Iranian proxies, the Hamas and Hezbollah, were waging war against Israel, with Iran's direct strike, which is the second in a span of mere months. The situation is on the brink of spiraling out of control. A total of 17 overnight strikes have hit Beirut yesterday night, as reported by foreign media viewers. Please note, Israeli bombings in Lebanon have displaced hundreds of thousands of people and killed more than 1,000 people in the last 2 weeks as well. All right, viewers, joining me at this point of time is Major General Rajan Kochar on the broadcast live with me. And in the view of the Israel bombings that have now displaced thousands in Lebanon, I'm getting my guest on the broadcast. And at this given point of time, Major General, Mr. Kochar as well, it is in fact very worrying about the number of displacements that have taken place, especially after the Israeli attacks. And now, in fact, the United Nations yesterday had also warned about the growing number of displaced people when we talk about in Lebanon. The UN yesterday had in fact warned about the humanitarian crisis which was brewing in Lebanon. What are your first thoughts on it?
First of all, Simran, thanks for inviting me over. The most important is, yes, displacements have taken place. I believe over 1 million people have been displaced. And there are also a large number of refugees which are moving on to the Syrian border. I'm given to understand that there is a bridge which connects Syria with Lebanon, and we see a long line running into kilometers of people entering Syria. So it will become a problem for Syria also now, because we will have to establish refugee camps there. A second important humanitarian aspect is that a failure of United Nations as an organization to take care of these conflicts. We have often seen these conflicts taking place, and especially in the Middle East, which has become a war zone today. Gaza has been an example, Ukraine has been an example, and a third example is going to be Lebanon. And what I fear here is the escalation matrix. This escalation matrix is also sucking in Iran and the superpowers like China and Russia are waiting in the wings right now, because so far we don't visualize their active involvement into this campaign. But one never knows. You see, in geopolitics, you can never be 100% certain that small conflict can expand into a larger conflict in which the superpowers get involved. And once these superpowers get involved, then I don't think we'll be able to contain the situation, because right now a lot of constraint has to be exhibited on the part of Israel, on the part of the United States. I know it's the right time for them to take on Hezbollah, to take on Iran, because I don't think they will find a better opportunity today to take on both these entities. But I think if they take on, it's going to be a disaster for the world economy. Why I'm saying this is the Strait of Hormuz, the Gulf of Oman, the Persian Gulf. These are the areas which are the main supply chain routes for almost 22% of the world shipping, and especially the OPEC countries. 12 countries are there in OPEC, and all their crude oil flows through this corridor. And already we are seeing today morning the Indian share market has also crashed. So it is going to have large repercussions, and I feel a certain amount of restraint is required at this stage. And if this restraint is not shown now, this can uh, conflagrate into a very, very larger conflict. Absolutely.
Major General, in fact, also, I hear the points that have been very significantly raised by you, but at the same time, I believe it also has to be understood that, there is a statement that's coming from the Iran supreme leader on the brewing conflict, now targeting the American and the European powers, saying, the Middle East countries will continue to only sustain in peace once the American and European forces, in fact, will be eliminated from the region, condemning the Western powers and their intervention in the region in the name of, advocating for the peace. So, how do you view, these statements directly coming from the region, which is now directly engaging into this war zone conflict, and in fact, there seems to be no sigh in sight.
Simran, I'm actually surprised at this statement because who's talking about peace? Iran has been an epicenter of terrorism. It has the axis of resistance. It is also known as the head of the octopus. Eight hands it has, which are running proxy war in the Middle East, and it has been happening since a long time. If Iran was so concerned and Khomeini was so concerned about peace, why did he make a statement 2 years back कि हम Israel का नामो निशान मिटा देंगे? So if this kind of a statement is emanating from Khomeini, he is making a turnaround today because he is badly cornered, and he knows the writing on the wall. Because in case United States joins this conflict, I mean, Iran is finished, and especially its nuclear sites are totally on the radar right now of the Americans, and Americans would like to target these sites and finish once and for all this nuclear bogey which Iran has been playing all these years. And you see this outfits, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthi, who is training them, who is funding them, and if Iran was so much interested in the peace, there was an accord being signed just before the October 7 incident last year between Saudi Arabia and Israel on a peace treaty. And if this was to be done, the relevance of Iran in the Middle East would have been lost, and that is why the 7th October attack came into being. It had the tacit approval of Khomeini, and that is how that attack was launched by Hamas. So his talking at this point talks of a double speak, I would say, because the right hand is saying something, the left hand is doing something, and I don't give any sort of a credence to his this statement, because right now this is a statement of a desperate leader who is wanting to now talk about peace after having fired more than 200 missiles 2 days back.
All right. Major General, also, I think there has been less discussion about how the world views, in fact, how we can analyze. Yesterday, UNSC meeting had, in fact, now concluded. But at the same time, China, in fact, had urged at the UNSC to de-escalate the Middle East crisis. The China's permanent representative to the UN, Fu Kong, had said during the Security Council meeting, in fact, making important points, that it needed to make clear and unequivocal demands to stop the cycle of violence over the Israeli-Lebanon conflict. While there are reports of now the people from South Lebanon fleeing to Syria, in fact, now every country deploying their choppers to rescue the nationals from the conflicted region, China, in fact, is now saying that they need to call for de-escalation. How do you view the statement coming from China as well?
Very interesting, because I would like to connect it to March 2021, when China and Iran have signed a strategic partnership agreement. which covers the political, which covers the economic, and which covers the strategic sector. So China is interested in de-escalation because China is an ally of Iran, and Iran also does not want this conflict to get escalated now, especially after the impulsive action which Iran has taken 2 days back. So China is urging to de-escalate it because China also doesn't want to get into this conflict. You see, China as a nation, its three-war strategy, it clearly states that China wants to win a war without firing a bullet. And it has done so with India also in the past. So I don't visualize that China is also seeing that in case this conflict goes out of hand and China has a strategic partnership agreement with Iran, China will have no option but to help Iran in the terms of military equipment, in terms of ammunition, and it will draw the ire of America. And then the stabilization which China is seeking in the Indo-Pacific, it is going to get affected. So I visualize things in larger sphere because in case the West Asia escalates, I'm quite sure the Indo-Pacific region will also get affected by this escalation. And China doesn't want that to happen right now. Maybe after 3-4 years, I think China would like to visualize a situation where it can assert itself in a better way in the Indo-Pacific and the South China Sea. But right now, I don't think China wants this kind of action taking place.
Major General, I request you to kindly stay on with me on the broadcast while I also get more breaking updates that we are tracking very, very closely from the conflict affected zone of the Israel and the Iran. Now, the French embassy in Iran has asked all its citizens to be very careful in the travel to Iran and to keep the track of messages from the embassy. They also advise their citizens to refrain from coming to Iran and in fact ask them to leave Iranian territory as soon as possible. While now the Israeli army has said that the sirens were sounded in the community of Nashal or near the Gaza Strip, forces later confirmed that the sirens that started ringing near the Gaza Strip were a case of false identification, and citizens in embassies have advised caution to their nationals and of course advise them to limit their travels to this conflicted region. But in this case, in fact, the bad news is that there will be casualties no matter what kind of prevention does the embassies and the nationals of any country would take. But in your opinion, to put this in perspective, you know, what's happening in the Central Asia and the Western Asia as well, you know, in your opinion, do you feel that this conflict, this regional conflict is now at the brink where we are eyeing at the possible occurrence of a third world war?
Very interesting the question. You see, I would just take it step by step. How this conflict will escalate and what is the military aim. See, we have to understand the political aim of Netanyahu and the military aim of Netanyahu. So, political aim of Netanyahu is the elimination or the downgradation of Hezbollah. The military aim is Lebanon has got 16 rivers. The most prominent is the Litani River, which is 29 kilometers from the Lebanese border and the Israeli border. So the first objective I feel which Netanyahu has given for his military aim is that he wants to sanitize this entire 29 kilometers, up to 29 kilometers of border. He has already gone into approximately 4 kilometers as of now. Limited incursions. Setback has been, there has been a setback. 8 Israeli soldiers have been killed yesterday in an ambush. Notwithstanding that, 2 infantry divisions are all set in to move inside Lebanon. So if we take this scenario of Lebanon as such, and we see what is the military aim of Israel to go up to Litany River, there is bound to be a lot of fighting here because guerrillas warfare is a strong point of the Hezbollah, and Hezbollah is going to, and well trained, almost 30 to 35,000 fighters are available in the Bika Valley and the area which I am actually mentioning, about 29 kilometers. So it is going to be a hell of a battle for the Israelis. I think the Israelis have prepared themselves. They have shared their operation plans with the Americans. If you remember, 15 days back, the chief of the US Army was in Tel Aviv, and General Kurovilla is his name, and he was in Tel Aviv, and all the operational plans were discussed. So I feel Israel is not going to stop now, because it won't get this opportunity now to sanitize this area, especially on its border villages. Almost 70,000 of the Israelis population had to be evacuated. He wants to get them back into his villages. So obviously he wants this border to have a buffer zone, and that is what I visualize as a military analyst. To talk about World War III, see, World War III can only take place if China and Russia enjoin the conflict, which presently I feel, because Russia is too much embroiled with Ukraine, and it is on the verge of a major breakthrough in Ukraine, so it would not like to denude its resources to fight this battle right now. And China, as I mentioned, will never get into a conflict with another nation, because China itself is not involved. Its own sovereignty is not affected. So I don't visualize as of now it escalating into a third world war.
For more such videos, subscribe to the Newsx YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.